Welcome to Rewiring Health, the podcast designed to unlock the secrets of self-worth and healing your mind and body. Hello, I'm Dr. Kelly Kessler, physical therapist, transformation coach, and your host. I spent a whole lot of time and energy seeking out a sense of fulfillment through achievement and validation from others, only to feel exhausted, like it was never enough, and even worse, like I was never enough. The thing is, I didn't even know I was abandoning myself in the process of making sure I was meeting the needs of everyone and everything around me, until it significantly impacted my health. Now I live life differently. I live with more peace, more joy, and more freedom in my mind and body. I've uncovered my self-worth, which has allowed me to live more authentically and in alignment with my true self. I see myself and my life through a whole new lens. Are you ready to stop abandoning yourself and begin living your life with more ease and purpose? Let's do this together. In this episode, we dive into the transformative power of feminine energy with Briget Covill. Bridget shares her expert insights and practical tips on how embracing your feminine energy can lead to profound personal growth and a more fulfilling life. She shares the significance of feminine energy and how it differs from masculine energy. She shares practical tips to harness and nurture your feminine energy, and also shares how tapping into your feminine energy can enhance your relationships, your career, and your overall well-being. Bridget has used this in her own life to transform herself. As a trauma-informed and feminine embodiment coach, she helps strong, independent women learn to soften, open their hearts, and connect to their desires so that they can finally feel good. Sobriety was a key for her doing her work, but somatic and embodiment work helped her to unlock her life and the relationships she truly desired. This was such a great conversation, and I'm so honored to have Bridget on the podcast and share this episode with you. Welcome back to another episode of Rewiring Health. I'm so honored to have Briget Covill here today. So thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So what I want to learn is just how did you get to help the people that you do and doing what you do? Can you tell us a little bit about your backstory?
Yeah. So, okay, the short end of the story is I guess my story starts when I was 18. I was a teen mom. And from there, I mean, motherhood in general is hard. I think I had a little bit of the hardship stacked against me just being so young. And my go-to to really like survive motherhood and life and all the things was wine. Wine was the only tool I had in my tool belt for a really long time. And so in 2019, I didn't go to rehab or need anything like that. It was just very clear to me that I would not be able to enjoy this beautiful life that I had as long as that was still in my world. So I chose to explore sobriety in 2019. And I say it like that because I don't count my sobriety dates. I don't go to AA. It's nothing, it's more a lifestyle choice for me. And it's something I continue to come back to and continue to choose every day. But that is the first part of how I got into coaching. And so I started learning mindset work, which was amazing and helped me start to, I always like joked drinking wasn't my problem. It was my thinking and it was the way I saw the world. And mindset work was awesome until it wasn't helping me actually feel better. It was helping me in certain areas. And I think mindset work's amazing. We absolutely have to look at our belief system and all of that. But I hit this wall probably right before COVID and then throughout COVID, where I was like, I'm still not feeling good. I'm sober. I'm 2.5 years sober. I know the mindset work. I'm journaling every day. I'm doing the affirmations, but I'm not feeling a shift. And that was when I found somatic work and embodiment work. And I was introduced to feminine energy, and this like whole other world just opened up where I would say like my spirituality really strengthened, my marriage turned like on fire. I started to create friendships that I was craving. Like I started to actually not just know that things could be different, but I was feeling the shift. And so, yeah, I've been coaching women ever since I've entered sobriety, but I would say the last 2 years when I really found feminine embodiment work, that is where my passion is. That is where I feel like I'm meant to be, to really teach women how to access this whole other part of ourselves, to actually enjoy the life that we're working so hard to create. And so, yeah, that's kind of my story.
so many things that you said that are just so relatable. And it's like you talking about, using drinking as a coping mechanism. It's like, it could, and then what you say, it's like that it was the external thing that you were trying to do, that it was coping for something internally that wasn't there, didn't feel right. And it's like, for anyone listening, it may be drinking. It may be like, for me, it was just working, like
Yep.
constantly working was that coping mechanism for me, but it could be so many things, but it's something that's masking the deeper cause of it. And so I think that's such a relatable thing. And I want to dive into something you said, talking about the feminine energy. Can you, for someone who's listening that maybe heard that or doesn't really know, or maybe has not even heard that, can you talk about what is feminine energy, what is masculine energy, and really differentiate the two of them?
Yeah. Well, first, just to go back to your comment, I love that you said that because people always say, why aren't you a sober coach? And I'm like, listen, alcohol was my thing, but everyone has their thing. And what I have found is women come to me saying, I have a beautiful life. I have a good husband. I have kids. I have a good job. Like, why can't I just be present and enjoy it? Why can't I find balance? And the more I learn about feminine energy, which I'll explain in a minute, that's what they're missing. Like, that's the actual balance that they're missing. It's not reshaping your story and looking at things differently. It's showing up differently. It's being differently or being different. So feminine energy is an aspect that we all have, men and women. It's not gender specific at all. The way that I talk is from a heterosexual woman married to a man, right? Did I say that right? Yeah, I said that right.
Yep.
Um, but it is not gender specific at all. It is energies within our body. So the masculine energy is what I just like to think of it as if you think of a person, we are always diverting energy, right? We're not like creating energy, we're transforming it. And so the energy from the neck up, everything that we do, planning, strategizing, organizing, doing, all of that good, yummy stuff that we have to do as entrepreneurs, as moms, as people in this world, it's a good part of us. So none of what I teach is to get rid of that part. But there's this other beautiful aspect of being a woman and being a feminine being, and it's nurturing, it's being soft, it's being open to whatever wants to move through us, being expressive, being creative. And this is an aspect that I think so many women have just turned off because of the family that you grew up in, the world that we live in. It's not, you don't get kudos for learning how to be soft. You get kudos for producing, for showing up and doing and going, no matter how many people try to tell you that they're not trying to do that. Like, that is the world we live in. And so feminine energy is this just beautiful aspect that we all have. It's just feminine embodiment work is learning to bring those qualities online and really, really start to embody them and practice them. And it is a practice. It's a daily practice of unlearning so much of what we see out in the world. And again, yeah, what you get praised for, whether it's achievement or I'm trying to think for me, it was busyness. Like, I just was somebody that always had to be busy, and I wore busy on my arm like it was this badge of honor. And it was literally killing me inside. I was miserable. And so I always say, like, before I found this work, my life on the outside today looks the exact same that it did 2 years ago. Same marriage, same kids, right? I do have a different house now, but same job. But inside, I feel like wildly turned on about life. And that is the missing aspect. Like, once you can bring in feminine energy and really find that balance, you just feel turned on. Everything becomes pleasurable. Not everything, but you can access pleasure and desire so much easier
Mhm.
when you live
Yeah.
in that state. Yeah.
Are you the person who says yes, even though you want to say no? Are you the person who puts your own needs and wants last behind the demands of your work and everyone else in your life? If you answered yes to any of these, you may be self abandoning, and it does not come without a cost. If you want to know if you're self abandoning for achievement, take my free quiz in the show notes. You said something that is so incredibly relatable, and it's like the fact that you on the outside can have all these things and appear a certain way, but then there's just this like void in yourself that something is deeply missing. And I think that is such a like, I mean, I know I felt that many times in my life, and so many women, especially men too, and like just feel that where like I should feel differently based on what I have in my life. And then it's just not there, and you're like, what is missing? And I think a lot of times, and I did this as myself, is like, I need to get more, I need to achieve more, I need to change, you talked about your mindset, change your mindset, and then you'll have that fulfillment. And it just never seems to hit. So I love how we're talking about this, because this is such a huge thing, that when you feel that void, it's not about getting more external things. It's about turning inward and really recognizing that there is a whole different energy.
Yeah.
And how societal pressures and subconscious messages really divert us away from that.
Yeah.
And that is, I mean, I have experienced that so much in my life, and even just overthinking things rather than just feeling things.
Right.
You feel so far in, so
Right.
far in to feel like, and it seems so silly, like how hard it is to feel, but when you've disconnected for so long, it can be really hard to start feeling anything different.
Right. And what you said, if people are coming to you or coming to me or looking anywhere for support, they always say, I want to feel balanced. I want to feel in love with my life. I want to feel successful. Well, if you want to feel anything, you have to be in your body. It
Yeah.
doesn't take place in the stories and the mindset. That's a great part of it. So I'm not trying to discount that at all. But there is, I just like to look at the body. If you look at the neck up, I use the vagus nerve like statistics, but it's 20% of your experience. That's,
Mhm.
so we're missing. Of course, you feel like something's missing,
Yeah.
but you have it. It's right below the neck. It's where your heart lives. It's where your desires, your needs, your passions, pleasure, everything that's good in my life has really stemmed from this reconnection to my body and this reconnection to this part of my energy.
Yeah, I love that. And for someone who's listening who maybe is that person that is like so disconnected, they are the overthinker, they're negatively ruminating about everything, and they're like, I don't even know how to connect to my body. Can you guide us through how you start to do that? How do you start to tap into that other side of yourself?
Yeah, yeah. I'm so glad you asked. And it sounds, so here's the two things I want to say first. It sounds really simple.
Mhm.
But it's not. If it was this simple, everybody would be doing it. It is really easy. It's not simple to implement when you've been living 3 decades worth of go 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 do 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 do. So be
Mhm.
really patient with yourself. And then the second thing is understand that this type, like for me, when I started with mindset work, I saw a shift immediately when I wasn't hitting trauma, and it was just like shifting my story about my kids or about my husband not doing the dishes, right? I immediately was like, oh, this works. This works. But when there's deep wounding within the body and we're really trying to process and feel and release and come back to our body, the work is subtle. And what I mean by that is I didn't really know that this was working until all of a sudden I was like in the middle of an argument with my husband. And I'm like, wow, you used to say those same things to me 2 years ago, and it would send me, I wouldn't be able to sleep. We would be in a fight for 2 weeks. And now all of a sudden it's like, it's not affecting me the way it did. And that's how you know that what the only thing that shifted was what I'm about to share now.
Mhm.
So the last thing is the big thing about masculine and feminine energy. The metaphor I like to use is sex, is when we're talking about sex. So sex, literally masculine energy, the man penetrates, right? It penetrates the feminine being. And so in order to get in your body and you like, because I love that you were like, what does that even mean? It means allowing life to penetrate you. So again, what does that mean? It means using your body to take in the experience. And that's it. So, simply speaking, if you are a mom with a young baby and you're nursing the baby, can you be with that baby? Can you look at the little rolls in their skin? Can you touch their skin? What does their skin feel like? Can you take in their smell? Can you just be with your experience and take in the input from your body instead of your mind? Or another example is you're doing dishes every day, right? And the soap is coming on. Can you pause and just enjoy or look and pay attention to what does the soap and the water feel like on my skin? What am I smelling, right? I don't know if you can taste anything, but what am I seeing with the bubbles lighting up? These are like really simple ways. I had a client who would walk every single morning, but she would walk and listen to a podcast and usually call her mom. And so the invitation was allow that walk, allow that scene to penetrate you. And what does that mean? Turn off the phone. I love silent walks. That's like my best advice. And take in the world around you with your body, right? So that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, those senses, but taking it in, slowing down is the number one way to really start to incorporate that. But those are just like, I hope that was helpful, but those are some three like practices that I will give busy women, because we don't have time to sit on a meditation pillow and put our hands up and connect to our body for 20 minutes. Like that's where I always call myself a feminine embodiment coach for modern women. How do we maintain a full life, but still allow life to penetrate us? And that's it. Can you slow down and take in with your senses everything that's happening? And if you can commit to doing that, set an alarm on your phone, set 5 minutes a day. If you can commit to doing that for 30 days, I promise you, you will experience a shift. It will feel subtle, but you will go, whoa, like I'm not overwhelmed as much. Things aren't bothering me. Oh my gosh, I'm noticing when I'm getting my period 2 weeks before I get it, right? Like, oh, I'm realizing certain foods don't agree with me. Like though learning to just take in life through your senses allows you to start to pick up the cues that your body is given. And
Yeah.
that's where I would start. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And then I love how it's like it is those because I've noticed that in my life too, those things that you think don't matter, those tiny little things that you're like, oh, I could do this or not do this. But when you do commit to doing those things, you do realize that. Like I've noticed that in my life with things like and a lot of things you talked about, like I was that person that had to have a podcast on because I, I couldn't walk in silence. And like that is something I've changed in my life. And it really has opened up so many things where you start to recognize and bring awareness to yourself. And so it makes such a difference. And sticking with it, even though you're not going to see those like dramatic things right away, it does compound to
It does
create
compound.
big change. And so I want to go into that a little bit further because for busy women, which is a lot of the people that listen to this podcast, it can feel so uncomfortable to not have that constant stimulus in your mind of like not having a podcast on or not being productive and doing something like that could feel so like just off. Like I don't have 5 minutes to even go for a walk in silence. What's a way we can reframe that or see it from a different perspective to realize like, oh, this is what I actually should be doing, even though it's uncomfortable.
Well, I guess that I always say you always make time for the things that you value. So I hope that we've explained like the truly the value. If you want to enjoy your life, start taking in your life with your entire body. And that's the first step. But yeah, let me think about that. That's a really good question. Like where do you even start? Is that what you're asking? Or
Yeah.
how?
Or like if you think it's a lot of times people feel something so uncomfortable and they're like, oh, this can't be right because it wouldn't feel uncomfortable. But can you talk about like because it feels uncomfortable, is that more indicative of like, is there a shift happening because it's different?
Yeah. Great question. Well, I know for me, like meditation was really hard. For me to close my eyes and just sit in silence was extremely hard. So I actually teach breath work. I teach a very activating, it's almost like an active meditation. So that's a very helpful thing to do. Another thing, if you struggle to really slow down, um, I would work on like, okay, so I have a mom right now. She's a mom of four, and she's like, I mean, I literally, Bridget, I cannot take things off my plate. My life is just going to be busy. So I don't know how I'm going to fit all this in. And I was like, okay, can you slow down your talking? When you're talking to your kids to get them up and out the door, can you just slow down the way that you're talking? You don't have time to sit for 2 minutes and slow down that way. Can you but do it slowly? Or one of my biggest feminine embodiment practices is keep doing what you're doing, but can you make it more pleasurable when you're doing it? Right? Can you actually be in touch with what's going to actually make this more enjoyable? Can I adjust my position? I always, whenever I'm working, I have a little roller underneath my desk that I'm constantly rolling my feet and just re-engaging my body. Another, I'm giving more tips. I don't know if I'm answering the question
Yeah, it's
really,
okay.
but
No, I think this is great because I
okay.
think there are little actionable strategies that someone could
Yeah.
do. They don't have to overhaul their life. So no, this is great.
So, and one other like really important, if you're like, again, and again, I just want to say for those that are like, I don't have time, you don't need more time. You really do need more decisions, better decisions on what to do with your time, right? And this, you connecting, I mean, just imagine the person in your life that you love the most. What do they want from you? They want your presence. They want your attention. And that's what we have to gift ourselves. Yes, we can talk nicer to ourselves. We can do mirror work. We could do visualizations, but often what really helps is just being present in your body, like literally just gifting yourself 2 to 3 minutes a day of being fully present, tuning in. So I'll have my clients set an alarm at like after work, 3, 4 o'clock, and I'll label it, how are you feeling? And it's just this, that's all they can do sometimes because they are busy. But it's just this quick pause where they put their hand on their heart, hand on their belly, and just tune in. Like, do you have a headache? Do you have to pee? Are you hungry? Right? Just start small, start really small and start to reconnect that way. And again, I guess the last thing I'll leave, if that doesn't feel comfortable, I would use your senses like when you're doing something that you do every time, right? Like you always get up and eat, make time to have coffee. Let's pretend like that's your thing. Nothing gets in the way of that. Okay, well, when you get up with your coffee, can you spend some time actually taking in and enjoying that coffee? Smell it. Feel the hotness on your hand. Feel the drink going through your down your mouth and through your throat. Smell it, right? Taste it really slowly. Wake up your senses that way. That is like one of the best ways to start to wake up, to start to live turned on, is like very simply. Yeah, again, I can't say it enough, but take in the full experience if you want to
Yeah.
enjoy the full experience.
Yeah, I think it's so helpful because it's like you hear these things, and now the next time you maybe go for a walk or you have coffee, there's going to be something after you listen to this episode, be like, okay, how do I do this differently? And that's really where it all starts. And it is like just giving yourself grace and then taking those little moments. So I love the tips you gave because it's something that you can easily build into a
Yeah.
busy lifestyle and still show up and be present for all the things that you have to be, but then also be present for yourself. So I think that's beautiful to give these things that you can easily be integrated into that.
Yeah.
So I love that. And then earlier you mentioned that one of the signs that you noticed that you were more in your body and in your feminine energy was that you were less triggered by things. Can you give other examples of some ways we can know that we are more in our feminine energy so that we
Mhm.
can be aware of like, oh yes, we are moving in this direction?
Yeah. I mean, I would say if you are experiencing burnout, if you are experiencing overwhelm, if you are experiencing, like you said, ruminating thoughts, if you cannot slow down, if you call yourself busy all the time, um, what's another one? If you're experiencing pain, any pain, I know you talk a lot about this too, but any pain in the body is oftentimes the last resort that your body has gone to get your attention. And that's because we're missing the cues. And again, it's no fault to your own, but if you are experiencing pain, I want you to think of that as a level 10. And this work helps you start to pick up the cues when you're at a level 1 or level 2.
Mhm.
um if you identify as an overgiver, right, like you're constantly giving to other people, you're most likely disconnected from your body. And so some people call it somatic work, some people call it embodiment work, feminine energy. It's all the same thing. It's all taking all of the energy from up here and diverting it down here and waking up, because most people's body is literally numb. Like it's literally has a lack of sensation there, so we're telling them feel your emotions. Well, they're not even feeling it because
Mhm.
they can't pick up the cues. So it starts with this. Instead of you just going and sitting with your anger and working through that, start with this. Start with taking coffee and just waking up your body, waking up your senses. Give yourself a self massage. But I would say like hyper independence, go go go, busy, overwhelmed, burnt out, pain, um, ruminating thoughts, living in your head. What else have I heard for a long time? um, uh, I would say specifically, like if you're married and you're in like a committed relationship, that constant like criticalness, controlling, irritation, inability to slow down and relax. These are all low libido. Like these are all improvements that I have seen in my life from this work, this very subtle work. It's like, how does this translate to you having a stronger libido? Because it's all in your body. All of this, all of these, this yummy, juicy feeling that we all want as women lives in our body. And so it takes very subtle, committed practices to waking that up. Um, but yeah, I would say anything that you're not enjoying.
Yeah.
If you find yourself just not enjoying life, not, oh, this is another big one. If you don't know what you want, I have a lot of women that come to me and they're like, I don't know what I want. I don't even know what I like. That is a disconnect from your body. If you are somebody that is constantly looking outside of yourself for validation, that is a disconnect. Like
Mhm.
2.5 years ago, when my mentor first told me, oh, sweetie, like you're just getting triggered and over and over again because you're not connected to your body. You're really not. You're feeling the trigger in your body and you're shutting it down by, either word vomiting to somebody else or talking
Mhm.
about it or writing about it. You're not actually allowing the energy to move through your body because you're not connected to it. And when she first told me that, I was like, okay, I think I'm in my body. I don't know what that really means, but I'll stay committed. And I would do these practices. And then this is what happened. It was like for the first time I was enjoying sobriety. I for the first time I was actually feeling my body and feeling joy and feeling presence and feeling balance and feeling turned on. Like, yeah, it's so good. It's such good, juicy work. And it's so simple.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love how you highlighted so many benefits and aspects of it because it's so easy to be like, I have this, this, and this going on, and then think that there's something innately wrong with you, and then search externally to figure out how to fix that, only to get into the cycle of never fixing it and then searching even further. So it's like when you realize this, and I hope for anyone listening, it's like to know the power of connecting with your body is huge, but also to know, like, if you are even disconnected and have that awareness that you are disconnected, because it can be very easy to not even realize that, and I can so relate to so many things you said, because like I think every one of those that you pointed out, I have experienced that in my life
Yeah.
and had no idea what was going on, and I was like grasping at straws trying to figure out, like, why do I feel this way? Like I'm busting my butt, journaling, I'm doing all the things, and I still don't feel the way I want to feel. And it can be so aggravating for someone to be stuck in that position. So this just like a huge heap of hope, for anyone who has gone through all the work and is stuck in their head up, that
Totally.
there's more to this. So I
Totally.
love that you highlighted that.
Can I say one other thing in
Yeah.
regards to that? I
Yeah.
do think, and this is the work I do. I think it's the work you do with your clients as
Mhm.
well, teaching them how to re-engage with their body and feel and process. Those are important, but I think sometimes, like you said, we get stuck on working through all the yucky feelings, right?
Mhm.
All the stress and the burnout and the anger and the grief. And that
Mhm.
has to be cleared from our body. But when you clear it, you've got to put stuff back in there. So
Mhm.
that's what this work is about. And this is why I love it the most, is because it's all about it is all about the inner child and healing those wounds. Like that is a big aspect of it, but it's also about creativity, tapping back into painting and being in nature and um hugging and playing with your kids, like being
Mhm.
able to physiologically slow down enough to enjoy that. So it's
Yeah.
about the feel good. Like that's what I'm after. Yeah, I want you guys to get rid of and clear that from your body, but I also want you to fill it back up with joy and presence and love. And that was like a huge thing for me. I remember being on a marriage retreat with my husband and just looking at him crying and being like, I know you love me. I have no doubt in my head, but I don't feel it, Paul. I don't feel it at all.
Mhm.
And for years, I thought it was him, but it wasn't him. It was like he could have given me the world and I wouldn't feel it because my senses were not turned on.
Mhm. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, like as you're saying, like give goosebumps because I totally feel that. It's like sometimes it's so hard to receive love, even though it's being given when you don't have the capacity and
Yes.
you don't even realize that you don't have it. And that's so, I mean, I guarantee so many people can relate to that. And it's like it could be, your child's love or a parent's love or a sibling, like just love in general. When you don't have that ability to feel those things, it's like you could very much point the finger when it really is just you elevating yourself to a point where you can actually feel it. So I love that you talk about that, and like the joy and the higher elevation, high emotions that you talk about too. It's not just working through the trauma and the negative things, like you just said, like being able to play with your kids and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's such a huge thing because even again, like as a high achiever, a busy person, you could like do the thing and play with your kids. And on the surface, it looks like, oh, they're playing with their kids. But like, what are you actually
Yeah.
gaining from that? Do you feel like it's another job that you have to do because, oh, good parents play with their kids? Or are you actually like in that moment?
Yes.
And there's such a big difference. And like, I can so relate because I was that person. Like, I need to do all these things. But then I'm like, you feel like everything is a resistance because it's like everything you feel like you should be doing, but you're not really actually present or
Yeah.
enjoying it.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
would say even before enjoying it, like I define presence as because it's funny that you brought up, okay, I'm going to just be real here. I do not
Yeah.
enjoy playing with my kids all the time. Okay. I just do
Mhm.
not. I'm that mom that wants to take them out on adventures. I don't really like to sit down and play Legos.
Mhm.
But what I can do is I can sit down and I can listen to their giggle and I can touch his head while he's playing, right? Like I use your body to stay in the moment. That's how you stay in the moment. And I think enjoyment comes, but can you first just be present? And being present doesn't always mean we enjoy it. It just means your mind is where your body is. And
Mhm.
that's really hard to do at first.
Yeah.
And then once it becomes sort of second nature, you get so in tune with like, yeah, okay, this game is really incredibly boring, but he's giggling and you get so connected to your body and you start to feel the joy. It starts to compound
Mhm.
over, even if you're not actually enjoying what you're doing. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, I do want to just say that because that was a big thing for me. I was like, I can't be present because I don't enjoy all of this, but you can be present even when
Mhm.
you're not enjoying it, right?
Such a great point there. And I love that. I love that you took that to the next level so
Yeah.
that people can really understand because I can so relate. Sometimes I do not want to play with the toys and I get it, but I love that there's a way to be present without like feeling like it's all those things that you should be doing. It's just being present for whatever is there. So
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
that you just brought that in. And one thing I want to go into a little bit further, because you brought up your husband, can you talk about as you connected with yourself in a deeper level, can you talk about your relationships? How did those change for
Oh
you?
man, how much time do you have? No.
Let's
Um,
go. Yeah.
I'm glad you brought up my marriage because I will say
Yeah.
that's the relationship I feel the
Uh-huh.
most embodied in because
Yeah.
again, we were teen parents. We dealt with
Mhm.
addiction. I had anxiety on my end. He had major anger issues on his end. Like we've
Mhm.
been through the ringer and he'll say it too. Like we are more in love today than we have ever been. And what has changed is me. It has been the energy that I come to the marriage, the energy in which I ask him to do things.
Mhm.
So much of like I had a whole program. I don't know if I'll run it again, but it was called Let Love In, and it was teaching women to embody softness, openness, admiration, and receiving in your marriage. And all four of those qualities are what I took myself through. And my husband will tell you, if you ask him what changed, he'll go, "You're just a lot nicer." But that was the big thing is it was like as I
Yeah.
started to soften, as I started to let go, as I started to really receive him choosing
Mhm.
me. And one thing I'll mention, this could probably be a whole separate episode, but my biggest wounding was within sisterhood and friendship wounds and
Mhm.
not feeling chosen there. And so I would come into my marriage and he was choosing me. But
Mhm.
I didn't, my nervous system didn't trust it. I was always like, what do you want? You just want ass or, whatever.
Mhm.
And so learning to really, that's where the inner child and the belief system, it is important. Learning to really rewire that part was crucial. But even simply just being in my body when he would come and like smack my butt and just noticing what happened to me. Like I wanted to contract and
Mhm.
wince and pull away from him and be like, go away. And so learning to just like somatically soften my shoulders, open my heart, touch him back, right? Like that sort of just slowly rewiring my body and my nervous system to really take in his yes, I had to rewire my beliefs, but that was probably really big for us was working on my energy or another big thing is we have four kids. So he would come home and I would be super overwhelmed. And I just thought, doesn't he know I'm overwhelmed? Like I'm at home with them. Why doesn't he know? Why is he walking in and running upstairs to go to the bathroom? Right.
Mhm.
So learning about the masculine energy was important for me because it made me really understand that masculine energy is very linear. It's very much, I need to go here. This is my need. I need to meet it. Feminine energy is very much like taking in the world around you, right? That's why as moms, as women, we can multitask a lot better than them. That's
Mhm.
our gift. That's a beautiful gift. So not taking it so personal, but learning how do I use my gift and my powerful radiant energy to bring him into this experience. And
Mhm.
so a lot of that was like learning to invite him in versus like telling him what to do
Mhm.
or like criticize. Oh my God, I was such a nitpicker. Everything he did was wrong. And then I was like, why aren't you helping me? He's
Mhm.
like, I can't help you. It's like the worst thing in the world to try to help you because I just do it wrong.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, it's a lot of it. We're all talking about the same thing. This is all feminine energy, and all of those practices are things that I had to start with.
Mhm.
But I think recognizing that, yeah, recognizing what my gift is, which is the seeing the big picture and the connection and knowing when connection is off and then recognizing his gift and learning how do we bring both gifts to the table without making someone wrong.
I love that.
Yeah, is really
Yeah, thank you for sharing that too. I think that's just, it's so impactful because there's, dynamics in relationships can be so challenging. And especially when you're not aware of what is actually going on. So it can become that like surfacey blame game. And then that doesn't go anywhere. So I appreciate you sharing how like you creating the change in yourself then brought in a different energy into the relationship. And that's just, again, another power to be able to do this
yeah.
work it's absolutely amazing. I want to go into another, like, just kind of in a different direction with this, but you talk about some of those things that you were doing, like the nitpicking and the different things. How much does forgiveness play a role? So, like forgiveness for yourself in that you were showing up in the only way that you knew how to back then, but now you have more clarity and a different energy. Did you have to forgive the past version of yourself for what you were doing back then?
100%. I'm so glad that you said forgiveness and then you said forgiving yourself, because
Mhm.
that is what I teach. Like all of our judgments for other people. So all of my judgments for my husband for being lazy and not helping and, being clueless, right? Like all these stories that were passed down to me about men,
Mhm.
I took into my marriage, and I totally projected all of that on him. And guess what? He lived up to him, because that's what happens, right? We set a standard and set a belief, and that's what we will create. So he lived up to him. So I always joke that like I was standing in the masculine pole, but I wanted him to so badly come and stand in this pole that I was refusing to let go of.
Mm.
So, yes, radical responsibility and radical compassion were the only ways I was able to move through this. He forgave me. Like it was really easy for him to forgive me because he just started to enjoy me better. But yeah, that was absolutely part of the big journey. But I, it's the same thing with my drinking. Drinking wasn't bad. It actually had a really positive intention in my life. It
Mhm.
was to help me to quote unquote feel better, right? I just wasn't feeling. So everything I did, everything I've learned about myself in the last 5 years had a positive intention. And that's what I always tell my clients, like there's a positive intention. So much of what I'm forgiving is by forgiving, I forgive myself for buying into the beliefs that I forgive myself for buying into the story that I am, XYZ. And that's where I really take forgiveness. But you need radical responsibility and ownership for the way what you're creating, because we're always 100% responsible for our half in a relationship, always. And then radical compassion. Like a lot of what I was experiencing, what I think many women experience, is so much shame was coming up for me, in, feeling like I wasn't measuring up in my friendships or in my home or in my marriage or in my motherhood. And instead of learning to communicate that with an open heart with him, which has been so transformational, right? But before I had the tools to do that, it leaked everywhere. It came out as criticism, and I wanted him to feel not enough because that's what I was feeling inside.
Mhm.
So much of that part of myself, you can't heal shame with shame, because you can't heal it in the same energy that it was created, right?
Mhm.
That's what my mentor always told me. And so, yeah, I mean, that's why my program was called Let Love In. Like, it's incredible what love for your partner, for your kids, but also for yourself. Like, how
Mhm.
I always I want to like just scream on Instagram. All of the stuff you're seeing is a load of crap. All you really need is love for yourself. That's it.
I love it. Yes, I mean, not to be cliche, but I love that.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's so true. It is so true. And it's like, it's just that is the most like elevating thing. If we could just all show up with more love for everything in ourselves and more gratitude for that, I
Yes.
think this whole world would be healed in a profound way. I mean, our whole mind and body is moving in a direction of healing. It's just that if we're stuck in these low energies, we're never going to be allowing anything to actually occur in that way. So I love that. And I love the name of that, Let Love In, because that's truly what it is. And I love how you talk about it starts with yourself and recognizing that like until you're in a place where you can receive, only then can you give it to other people
Yeah.
in that capacity. So
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. And
Yeah.
and just one other thing, I just want to touch on this because I know you're saying you have 4 children. Can you talk about that journey of how your relationship with your children has evolved as you have evolved with yourself as well?
Yeah, I mean, I would say those are the two ingredients that has transformed every relationship, has been
Mhm.
radical responsibility and radical compassion. So
Mhm.
I think the more compassion I give myself, I mean, so recently my 18-year-old son, like I did a podcast with him, and he'll say like what has shifted is that he can bring up the most taboo things in the world, and it
Mhm.
doesn't rock me like it used to. Like I
Mhm.
used to get, I could feel it in my body. Like he would bring up, um, I'm trying to think, just normal teenage college stuff that might come up for him, and I would immediately go, "Don't do that. Like you can't do that." And now it's like I can breathe again, and I'm just
Mhm.
like, I mean, like, okay, I hear that. Yeah, I can totally understand why you'd want to try that. Let's talk about that. Tell me what's appealing to that. So more approachable, way more compassion for them. I have one son who's incredibly intense, like with sports when he's not doing well or anything like that. And I'm his go-to. Like his dad knows more about sports, but I'm the go-to because he knows that anything is welcome. And
Mhm.
that, I think that's the like general aura that I give my kids is like, all of your emotions are welcome. They're all allowed. We're not going to stay there, but we can sit there and move through it together. Um, and then yeah, I mean, I am not a perfect parent. In fact, I have one kid right now that's not talking to me. So if that tells you anything, I'm totally not perfect, but I am a huge believer in it's really not what we do that traumatizes the kids. It's the lack of repair. So I'm
Mhm.
repairing on the regular with all four of them because
Mhm.
I'm making mistakes on the regular. But I do think it's interesting. I love that you asked that question because that was a big reason I got into this work was I wanted to get back to being that nurturing, soft, open, feminine, radiant being that I knew I was meant to be, but I was just so bogged down with life and all the to-dos. So now I can slow down. I can let things go and go outside and throw the ball with them. Like I never was able to do that, or I never allowed myself to do that.
Mhm.
So yeah, I would think all four of them, well, minus the one that's not talking to me, but all four of them would say, yeah, that it's just this like openness, this
Mhm.
complete and raw, like be who you are and bring it. It's all
Yeah.
welcome kind of thing.
Well, I love how you talked about that too. It's not the perfection, it's the repair. And like, because I think that's such a like, it lets the pressure off that you don't have to be perfect, but you have just, but creating a safe place where your
Yeah.
children can express their emotions and then offering that to them, like I think that is so much more realistic than thinking that you have to show up perfectly and that there's never going to be a rift even if you're doing all your own work. So I love that you share that, is that like they feel safe to be able to approach you with things and that you are much more open to that. So I think that's an amazing thing because perfection in parenting does not exist.
Oh my
No,
God.
no one is perfect and there are always going to be mistakes. You're going to say things and do things, but I love that the repair is where that really is highlighted. And I love how you said that.
Yeah. I
Um,
always joke with my kids, if I was perfect, you would have the most boring life in the world. It's so fun to wake up and not know what version you're going to get. Like,
yeah, it's true. That's it. Just allow life to flow, right?
yeah, and that's it. That's
Yeah.
feminine energy. Like, can you
Yeah.
flow in the morning, right? When you have your youngest child throwing a tantrum, instead of
Uh-huh.
you worrying about getting there on time and everyone's going to get mad at you for being late, can you just breathe?
Yeah.
Slow down the way you're talking, slow
Mhm.
down the way you're asking him to get his shoes on, and just be there in the moment. That's what matters the most. It doesn't matter that you show up 5 minutes early before the bell rings. Like it really doesn't matter. It doesn't.
Yeah.
And
It's the
everything will get worked out. What matters is that connection there in that moment. And you cannot be connected to another human being if you are not connected to yourself. Yourself includes your body.
Mm, I love
Does
that. I mean, that's like that what you just said. I feel like you could just like rewind and listen to that again because that is so poignant. That is huge. Like what you just said, that whole statement was just beautiful. And I love that. And I hope for anyone listening, you just listen to that again because there's so much gold to that. So
Yeah,
thank you.
you're welcome. Yeah.
And for someone who want to connect with you, work with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, so I have a podcast called Wake Up and Thrive. They can go check that one out. We talk all things about waking up, living awake, living aligned, living alive, all that stuff. And then currently I'm on Instagram. That might be shifting in the next few months, but I am on Instagram at Find Her Wild Coaching. So you can come over and say hello. Probably the best thing to do is to get on my email list. So I can even send you a free guide that you can offer your clients with my 5 favorite body-based tools that they can start to utilize and really kind of get into their body.
Amazing. I'll put everything in the show notes. If you're listening to this, definitely check it out and connect. And I just want to thank you again for sharing so many amazing things today. I truly enjoyed this conversation. I know it's going to help so many people in tremendous ways. So thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on this on this platform with your community. Thank you.
Absolutely. Anytime. And again, if you're listening and you found value in this, which I'm sure you did because there was so much, please share it with somebody so they can also have a lighter life and just connect with themselves in a much deeper way. So thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Rewiring Health. I hope you found our conversation both enlightening and empowering. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to Rewiring Health so that you never miss an update. Also, I would love to hear your thoughts. If you could take a moment to rate and review the show, it would mean the world to me and help others discover the power that we all have within us to create change and create the life that we truly, truly desire. Thank you so much for spending your precious time with me and sharing the energy of the show.